allowed me to major in something I liked, which was computer science. So that's how I ended up choosing it. The second thing was, how did I get my first job? Well, that was also a lot of luck. My first job was what was called a sales engineer at Advanced Micro Devices. It does semiconductor chips. I sort of lucked into this as well. Once I chose electrical engineering, I thought I wanted to work at Hewlett-Packard. If you don't know who Hewlett-Packard is, Hewlett-Packard was the Google of the 1980s. It was like the #1 most admired company in tech to work for, kind of like IBM. But when I interviewed, I sort of realized I didn't really want to do the kind of jobs that HP had. And I lucked into this company called A&D. They had a position called sales engineer. No one was on the sign-up sheet. This was at the Career Center. And I went in, and I didn't know anything about it. And I ended up loving the idea of being sort of in the sales marketing end and using my tech degree to do sales and marketing. And that's how I chose it. And if you want to ask questions about why, there was a freedom of my time. They had a commission plan, so it seemed like I could make a lot more money. And they had a lot of perks like a car plan and expense plan. That sort of like, oh wow, this is quite exciting for a college kid. And so that's kind of why I chose it. It sort of appealed to me because I kind of like the idea of being in front of people instead of behind a desk. And then over the years, I basically went sort of up the corporate chain, and then I bounced across multiple companies over 30 years. And these are the areas of what the companies did. So generally, I sort of became known in what's called technology licensing. So there's the idea that you do products and you do a product sale. What I ended up doing was doing a technology sale, where you license technology to a company, and then they in turn build it and make a product out of it. And so I jumped, using that expertise, I jumped industries to try to sort of do something different over time. So the thing is even though there were all these different industries, I must have worked for 6 different companies over the 30 years, they really all had the same skill set. So what ends up happening is you build up your toolkit that you can apply to different companies and different jobs. I started out actually in sales, and the sales, and for those who kind of go, what is sales? Really, what the sales is for all companies have sales teams, because they need people. This is business to business sales, so I'm not talking business to consumer. It's a little bit different. I'm talking business to business. And in business to business, you need a representative to talk to customers. The salesperson is the company representative that is the face of the company at the customer. And the idea is to get to know the customer well enough so that you can provide information to your company about kind of what they need, when they need it, and try to find a fit for what you do and what they need, so you can sell it, so the company can sell it to them. So that's technically what the job is, and these are some of the things that you're in charge of. But really, at the big picture level, you're the guy that basically tries to communicate to your company what the customer needs and what you have that you can sell to the customer to find a match. On the other hand, marketing is the factory side. So what the marketing does is they're trying to try to educate the sales force of what they have and why it would be good for customers. So they're sort of the liaison on the factory side who works with sales to try to get the design in with the customers. So what they're looking at is the bigger picture. The sales guy only cares about their one customer. They win if your customer uses the product. The marketing guy wins is that they can sell it to as many companies as possible. So what they're trying to do is say, okay, what product can I make that is applicable to the most number of customers? So what they do is they talk to customers, they talk to sales guys, try to get all the information about what their customer base needs, and they try to come up with the most common product that fits as many different companies as possible. And so that's the angle that they're approaching. And there's a lot of marketing terms that they're called the 4 Ps. They're sort of trying to basically come up with a product and data sheets and collateral that makes them better than the competitive alternatives. So what they're looking at is, okay, what do we have and why is it better than competition company A? And they try to promote that to their customers. So there's the two sides of the same equation. They're both interested in customers, but the sales guy is one customer, the marketing guy is looking at multiple customers using the same product. So the first thing, depending on what you have, the first thing you do is prospecting. Now, if you decide you want to do sales, a lot of the big companies already know who their customers are. So you're not, the prospecting means you're trying to find customers. And depending on the size of the company you're going for, typically the big guys know who their customers are, except maybe unless they're looking for new customers. The small guys, if you go to a startup, generally they're hoping that if you're on the sales team that you're going to help find their customers. So it's what they call lead generation. All right. So basically, you're looking for customers, which means you try to say, okay, this is what the company makes. Who do I think would fit and would be potential buyers of that product? But then the next thing is, once you sort of find these companies, you need to sort of qualify them. So what you're doing is you're meeting with the customers, trying to find out what they do, when what they need, and to see if there's a fit. One of the interesting things about sales is that it's not a solo act often. Basically, as part of this process is you need to know who you can draw from your company to help you with this process, because you don't know everything. So the idea is, this guy here is a marketing guy, he's pretty smart about this product. I think he would be useful to help me sort of talk about my product with customer A. So you invite the marketing guy out to the customer base, and he goes with you to help you sort of inform the customer about what you guys do. So in most sales jobs, it's a team sell, where you're sort of the coach. You do some things, but you also have to call in players to help you with the process. And part of the trick is who do you use. So through my career, you think, I spend all my time outside talking to customers, but in reality, half my time is talking to people inside the company to try to understand, who's doing what, how can they help me, and trying to deal with problems that your customers have, getting the design win or getting the product done that they have roadblocks. The customer calls you, you need to try to figure out who in the factory can help you out. So it's sort of a two-way street. It's by no means a solo effort. Okay. So once you qualify and you say, okay, this guy's a match, I'm calling on Apple. Apple needs good cameras. I sell a good camera, and now Apple thinks you have a good camera, and so now they want a proposal. And so you're basically now trying to come up with a proposal in terms of price, specifications, whatever that best meets your customer, let's say Apple, and you have to be aware of what the competition is doing. And so that is sort of your charge, your deal, because in the end, you are responsible for getting the order. So in the end, even though you're using all these people, you don't have pricing authority, you have to present it. In the end, if you don't get the order, basically it's the sales guy's fault. But if you do get the order, you're the hero. It all starts over again, because what happens is you're in it for the long term, so you nurture the customer, you make sure that their orders are processed correctly, that it works like you told them it was going to work, because the next time they have a cycle, you want to win it. And the good news is once you're in, the next time becomes a lot easier. Now they have experience with you, and if you do a great job, they want to work with you. And that's really the ultimate goal of a good salesperson, is that they build a relationship with the customer that's ongoing and it grows over time. And that just makes the job super, super satisfying. This cycle can take months to years, depending on the product. So if you have a simple product, it could be a software solution, an app. It could take a couple weeks. I try it, I like it, doesn't fit, make a decision. But it's something you don't have. So what I specialize is, we had an idea, the company had an idea, but it didn't actually have it. It was developing it. It was a startup. And so part of the challenge was getting the customer to sort of ride with you during the process of you designing it. They're designing their product, and you're designing your product so that it intersects together, so that when you're done, they're done, and they buy. So that was sort of my specialty, long lead time. So, but there's also I got this software app, and this is what it does, and the customer says, well, let me try it. And they try it, and either it works or it doesn't work, and they buy it. So those are the two types. I don't know if you guys, the Sony PlayStation 3, it was actually introduced in November 2006. I worked for a company called Rambus Technology in the 1990s. And what Rambus did was a memory technology provider. They were a startup, and they basically did the high-speed interface to memories on chips. So not the NAND, not the flash card, but the main memory inside of the computer, the DRAMs. Sony was a big customer, and it was one of the largest design wins. I'll talk a little bit about how it. So what happened was, it started in 2000. So look at Sony PlayStation was actually introduced November 2006. I had to look it up. We used our chip partner. We were a memory technology house, so we didn't actually make the product. We licensed the technology for Toshiba, which was a DRAM maker in Japan. They made the product and sold it to Sony. So that's sort of the relationship. So the good news is we were in, and remember how I said once you're in on the first time, it makes the second one easier. So the good news was, when Sony and Toshiba willingly started to talk to us in 2000, because they wanted to use us. We had a next generation technology. So in the PlayStation 2, let's call it, they used Rambus 1. In PlayStation 3, they wanted to use what we called Rambus 2. That didn't even exist yet. We were designing it, but we had target performance, and they wanted to use us because we did such a good job on PlayStation 2. IBM was their other partner. So what happened was, Sony signed up IBM as their chip partner because IBM had the processing technology that they wanted. So this was the PowerPC. Before Intel won everything, Motorola had a PowerPC architecture. It was kind of like ARM, but it was a little bit older. But IBM had it. IBM used to make semiconductors back then for their mainframe computers, and they had a chip division that basically sold Sony on their processor technology. So Sony already committed to use IBM. And of course, IBM, because they were really big, didn't know anything about Rambus because we didn't really have a relationship with them. They didn't want to use us. They wanted to use their own technology. So we were stuck. In one hand, Sony and Toshiba wanted to use us. On the other hand, IBM was pitching another solution that they said was just as good, if not better than our solution. And Sony was stuck in the middle because both were partners. IBM was their partner, and so were we. And so it was this big, huge tussle. And what that really involved was, from a sales standpoint, was this huge technical evaluation. So again, you say, well, I was the sales guy. I did not do the technical evaluation. What I did do, though, was I had to make sure that we were not going to get sort of rejected until there was a fair evaluation. Because IBM really didn't want to do the evaluation. So my job was to make sure by meetings with IBM, so sharing as much information as we could, even we knew that they were a competitive alternative, and also keep the dialogue open with Sony and Toshiba, what our progress was, so that IBM couldn't backdoor us with negative PR and try to move everything forward in the most sort of open way possible. That was to make sure what my job was. IBM concluded that yes, we were better. And we finally agreed. And then this is where more of the traditional sales came in. So I had to lead the negotiating team. And what was interesting about this was I had to negotiate with 3 different companies at the same time. So on one end of the table, I remember the meeting, it was a 2-day meeting in Japan where we had the big, after months of posturing of what we both wanted, there was this huge meeting in Japan. And on one end of the table, they had executives and attorneys from Toshiba, IBM, and Sony on one end. So they had 15 people on their end to represent them. And we had 3, me, my marketing guy, and my lawyer on one end. And we're trying to negotiate terms for them to use our technology because they all needed it. And so that was something. And then even after we agreed to the major terms, it took us another close to a year to finalize all the T's and C's. We actually had to make it. So then I had to work with the companies to make sure everything went smooth. But it was a 2-year design-in process for us to deliver the technology to our partners. And then another 2 years for Sony to integrate it all and then introduce the product. So this was a 6-year cycle from start to finish. And this is unusually long, but it shows you sort of the breadth of what it takes sometimes to get a design. Because we knew it was a long time, and we were a public company by now, so we went public on the strength of this, the PlayStation 2 design win, and we had a design win with Intel in 1997. We went public, but we still were a small company. We knew. Look at the time to revenue. So we don't make any revenue. We designed it in 2000, but we don't make any money until Sony started selling the thing in 2006. So they wanted a cheap, sort of ongoing price, really, really cheap. We said, okay, but what you're going to do is pay us the full engineering cost, burden cost for us to develop it. And they said, okay. So it turned out to be a $40 million deal on engineering charges. We got 60 cents a box. So for every box they sold, we got 60 cents as what we call a royalty. So we didn't really sell anything, so how we made money was royalties. So they agreed to pay us for every box they sold. So we got 60 cents a box. And just so you know, they sell millions of boxes. So we multiply 60 cents. But you have to remember, this is way out in time. So for us, the revenue was more. So I left Rambus and I decided I wanted to do portable power. And I'm not sure if you know about this, but there was this whole idea that fuel cells were the alternative to batteries. So fuel cells for even small ones. So there were always big power plant fuel cells, but the idea was we could make one small. The company was actually called Lilliputian for that reason, that they could make a micro fuel cell. So a fuel cell basically converts a gas into electricity, and the only byproduct is water and CO2. So it basically doesn't really have any emissions. What it does, most people use either propane, methane, or butane as a fuel, and then there's this reaction, and out comes electricity and some mostly water. It's done on sort of industrial power plant scales. It's never been done in SUSE. And so there was this company that had a chip that they said they could do this, and it was a startup, and they needed someone to basically decide what product to build. So they had this idea, but they had no idea what to build. So my job was to define what the first product was going to be. Again, they had this idea of a chip, but they had no idea. Okay, so this is more of a marketing job, even though there was sales because it was customers. So I think the hardest part in the beginning was to define the target market segment. So basically, you have to go to customers, find out how they use batteries. So the value proposition was we wanted to replace a charger because recharging batteries was painful. You had to carry the charger. Batteries didn't work well. They were heavy, and so micro fuel cells were supposed to solve these problems by allowing longer recharge time. Longer recharges being light and hopefully at the same size because they're longer. This was like 1/3 the weight. Okay, so there turned out to be two markets, either laptops or phones. In the end, laptops or phones, but you had to pick one. And so the only way to pick one is you got to visit customers, you got to research kind of what the market size, because you also want to pick a market that is big, because the only way to make a lot of money is you got to pick big markets. Little markets are nice, but they don't pay the bills to get you public. Big markets do, so you had to pick a big market, which is why in the end it was either laptops or cell phones, because those were the two biggest portable markets. Right? So once you visit customers, you look at what the competition is, you try to understand what the strengths of batteries are, you try to see what you think you could do. You then had to create a target specification. So I had to say, all right, which one? First of all, who are we going to go after? And so we ended up deciding that we wanted to go after the cell phone. And the major reason was laptop batteries were big and they lasted quite a bit of a long time, and people were used to the weight. So I didn't think it was going to be that big of a win to replace that. But for cell phones, they lasted less than a day at a time. You had to have a plug. There were a lot of use cases for phones where you had no access to plugs because you didn't need one. You didn't need an outlet. And so we thought that the cell phone, if we could make it in a form factor, which is like the current chargers, the battery chargers now, if we could make it in that form factor and deliver, many recharges off a single cartridge, because we use butane, this would be a win. So I had to define the product and also do a competitive analysis, because we wanted to make sure that that product was better than basically a battery recharge. That was the alternative. It's either this or battery-based recharge. Validate the specification. Basically, you have this target spec, then you go around to all the phone companies, the charger companies, and you try to find a customer that says, yes, that's what I want. If you build it, I'll buy it. And that's how we decide if this is the right thing. So I got that. I found my first customer, and then that took basically 1.5 years to do. Right? So that was sort of the good news. The bad news was the technology never really worked. And so I ended up waiting around for this thing. This is a picture of the eventual product, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. But I waited another 1.5 years, for engineering to build the spec that I said, was the winner, and they couldn't build it. In that 1.5 years, they tried, and so finally I quit. And then, I would give you a good time frame. So I quit in 2007. In 2010, I went to a trade show and I saw my product. Okay, so this is another 3 years. Brookstone was carrying this product. Brookstone, that travel company, they carried my product. They had a demo of my product. I was like, oh my God, this is the thing I specified in 2004, 2005. And they actually had alpha samples, pre-orders, and the problem was that you never got to production. So this was one of those hype things that they made some samples, so you got at least of that. I found a picture of it, and the company closed doors in 2012. So they ran through over $100 million in startup VC funding and went into it. So, this is where I gave it my best shot, but it was never. So I want to say something about hiring. So I was a hiring manager, and I think the example I wanted to do is, I told you a little about this. Notice I really didn't talk a lot about technology skill set, especially if you were graduating college. So I hired my first college grad in 2000. She was a basketball player at Santa University. And what I liked about her was because she was on the basketball team, she was, she Division I basketball players, they're practicing all the time, but she still got her degree in engineering. And so I knew she was a time management skills. So, she was personable, but I wanted to see how she did in sort of a group environment, because everything's a group environment. I made her do a presentation. So just like this, I said, pick a topic. I want you to try to sell me something, and present. So I think these are things that you can do regardless of what degree you have, and I think these are the things that are important in getting a job. Is the motivation, and then when you're interviewing, motivation. You really want to be clear if you a job why you want this job. The hiring managers, they can pick from a lot of people, and a lot of people have great credentials, just like you guys all will have. So what that makes you different is the fact that you can say something a little bit different, which is, you know something a little about the company, then you should always do that. You should know kind of what you're looking for, ask some good questions, and that shows that to the hiring manager that you're interested and that you're going to be a fit, and that's what they're looking for, because they're looking for fit. Notice I didn't, background matters, but really, this is what sets most people apart. Okay? I wanted to say I had no master plan. So in hindsight, it was, oh my God, Steve, you're just incredible. You got all these great things, life worked out. But in the end, there was times where I wasn't sure life was going to work out. I had some setbacks, and I wasn't sure at some point. The way life works is you need to find your passion. So you need to try things. You need to be able to articulate what you like and what you don't like. And the more you can do that, the better off you are in getting jobs and also finding jobs that are rewarding. The more you know yourself. And the only way you know yourself is you're young. I didn't know anything. I just tried a bunch of things. You try some jobs, you don't like it, okay. You try some different classes. Basically, to be open to trying things until you know what you like and articulate it. And that's really one of the most important things. And then the second thing is you need to make sure you stay connected. And this is the people-to-people skills, because in the end, this is your network. This is how you get the second job. This is how you get change industries, because what you are is you're connected with the people. And I'm not saying you have to be a schmoozer. You just the natural ability of keeping in touch with who you care about grows your network. And I think AI is going to help some companies and it's going to hurt some companies. Which ones? I don't know. But I don't think, I think AI is going to win. I don't think you need to be a software engineer to win with AI. I think there's a lot of other things that you can do that's not even tech. As long as, I know that some people use AI right now to help. So I'll give you a good example. My son's girlfriend is a pediatric dentist. And she is an intern. She uses AI. And how she uses AI is she can't stand writing the email about the prognosis. After she does an examination of her children, she says it takes so much time, and she doesn't like doing it because she wants to be factual, but you can't do that in a business. You kind of have to dress it up. So she uses AI to dress up her email. So she basically types in the diagnosis of and then she says, someone, please write an email that is friendly with these facts in it. And she uses that. She says it saves her an hour a day.